So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, audience from all over Southeast Asia and beyond. My name is Montakan Kittipaisansin from UNESCO, and welcome to the webinar called Untold Journey, sharing ethnic stories from the rivers and the seas. This marks the fifth thematic webinar under our latest project, Achieving Sustainable Tourism with Intangible Cultural Heritage and Creative City Networks in Waterway Cities of ASEAN. The project has been kindly supported by ASEAN-Turkey Cooperation, Designated Areas for Sustainable Tourism Administration of Thailand, or DASTA, International Training Center for Intangible Cultural Heritage in Asia-Pacific region, or CRIHAP, K11 Department Store, and Onyx Hospitality Group. UNESCO also implements this project in collaboration with the City Connects, the Consulting Cambodia, and Thailand CBTI. This project is for tourism professionals in ASEAN sub-region. We have been organizing altogether 6 webinars like this one and 1 on-site workshop in Nan Old City in the northern part of Thailand earlier this year in February. We are happy to see many familiar and new faces in this webinar and hope that our continuing webinar activities will help opening new conversations and bringing people in tourism sector in ASEAN closer to one another for your future work collaboration. So to continue with that objective in mind, today we will discuss one aspect of an expanding tourism trend of deep traveling into the wilderness in particular. When we say that, most people would picture themselves exploring the forest or the island, exploring the forest or the islands and learning the local way of life, or learning to live with and for the nature in particular. This is indeed the backdrop of our discussion today in a webinar beautifully titled Untold Journeys, Sharing Ethnic Stories from the Rivers and the Seas. But before we setting off for such life-enriching journey, we would like to introduce you to, first of all, our keynote speaker who will help set the vision on a global perspective, in particular, the United Nations perspective towards sustainable tourism and indigenous and ethnic communities. So today we're delighted to have here with us Mr. Igor Stefanovic, Coordinator for Accessibility, Cultural Tourism and Indigenous People of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, or UNWTO, or UN Tourism. So just before Mr. Igor starts, I would like to just give a little bit of his biography here. Mr. Stefanovic is a social sustainability professional with 25 years of experience within the UN system, starting as a peace builder in Bosnia and Herzegovina at the age of 19. He joined the UN Tourism in 2007, working alongside governments, corporates, NGO, and civil society to make tourism development more inclusive. Igor has been working closely with indigenous people since 2012 after the UN Tourism endorsed La Ragia's declaration, excuse my pronunciation. He drove the drafting of UN Tourism Baseline Study on Intangible Cultural Heritage and Tourism, and the UN Tourism Recommendations on Sustainable Development of Indigenous Tourism, as well as the Compendium of Indigenous Tourism Best Practices focused on the Americas. He has formed a close relationship with organizations of the like of World Indigenous Tourism Alliance through his works. So dear audience, we are also open for questions from the audience for the keynote speaker, as well as for other speakers that will follow today. So you have if you have comments or questions directly for Mr. Igor, please don't wait and please write it down either in the chat box or the Q&A function of the Zoom, and we will pick them up to ask him right away after his keynote as well. So without further ado, please put hands together from Mr. Igor Stefanovic.
Sawadee, good morning. I wish to thank the UNESCO Regional Bangkok office and especially to Montakan for her enthusiasm in setting this seminar up, and also for opening avenues for collaboration with UN Tourism. So I'm just saying hi from Madrid, It's 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. in the morning here. So it's great that we are connecting through these technologies in these virtual times. So I'm going to share my presentation where we're going to speak about the basics of indigenous tourism and why it's so important for both tourism and cultural sectors. I'm just going to put the full screen mode. Hold on a second, please. It's just taking some time. Okay, here we are. So indigenous people, responsible tourism and sustainable tourism. We will see today how these three elements, these trionium can be combined and how can we reach a healthy balance. I have put on purpose this picture from the Easter Islands, Rapa Nui, because last year we championed the first study and compendium of good practices in indigenous tourism where we featured the Americas. That was maybe the continent where we first started talking about indigenous tourism alongside Australia, New Zealand, and also North America. So why does UN Tourism support indigenous tourism? Because it promotes intercultural dialogue and mutual understanding. It's promoting cultural diversity, benefiting cultural transmission for now and for the future. And also destinations cultural offerings, also contributing to destinations promotion around the world, promoting cultural diplomacy. It's also supposing great educational potential for all key players, because indigenous peoples and indigenous tourism have to do a lot about educating people that we can be different, we can be equal, we can have self-governance model, different social and cultural structures, but we should respect each other. I personally believe that there shouldn't be majorities and minorities. I think we should all be equal and promote culture as something enriching for everybody. Also, indigenous tourism is something that supposes great entrepreneurial opportunities for indigenous community undertakings and creation of jobs. Sometimes we have informal economy among indigenous communities. Sometimes we want to help them make it formal, but we should never impose our, let's say, Western or structured models on indigenous communities in case their own governance works for them the way they have chosen. And we also need to advocate for indigenous leadership models and equal shares of benefits from tourism. Why? Because indigenous tourism was very often developed by tour operators or by governments or by big companies, even hotel development ventures, without really talking to the local people and indigenous communities, asking them what do they expect from tourism. Why equal share of benefits? Because very often indigenous people were folklorized, sometimes even considered as, it sounds terrible to say, but it's happened in the past, human attractions, what is a total abominable practice. So we need to have indigenous people as absolute leaders of development of tourism within their communities, and they need to have equal share of benefits because they want to invest in their schooling system, in their sanitation, and also put it back into their culture and their tourism, and also biodiversity preservation and preservation of nature. So why are we doing this? Because in 2007, as you all know, the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was adopted. That's the highest political and policy document ever promoted by the United Nations and international community to stand up for the cause of indigenous peoples and their development. So we have to mainstream indigenous issues. For example, our colleagues from UNESCO Bangkok or UNESCO Paris are mainstreaming indigenous issues in culture, in education, in science. We are doing the same in travel and tourism. Other agencies like WIPO are doing the same with intellectual property. That's another big issue because there's a lot of cultural misappropriation of indigenous heritage by maybe big fashion brands. So we are all mainstreaming indigenous issues across the UN system. And in 2012, we were approached by a group of Australian Indigenous peoples and the newly founded World Indigenous Tourism Alliance that was founded in Darwin. And they had a conference on the Larrakia territory of the Larrakia Aboriginal people in Northern Australia, where you have a lot of huge crocodiles and mangroves, but incredible cultures of the Larrakia people. So that's where the Larrakia Declaration on the Development of Indigenous Tourism was adopted, totally led by Indigenous people. And our Executive Council decided to endorse, to recognize the importance of this important international document. So which outputs has UN tourism produced so far? I would put it like this. The first one is a very interesting political move, because 15, 20 years ago, it was impossible to speak about indigenous peoples because they were only considered as some, how would I say, folkloric minorities by many tourism destinations. There were no issues of human rights being respected the way they're respected and taken into consideration nowadays. So our General Assembly, that is the highest political body of the organization, composed of member states voting, they adopted recommendations on the sustainable development of indigenous tourism. That's the first document that you see in these pictures. And it was done in partnership with the World Indigenous Tourism Alliance. So this was the first, let's say, our output of this collaboration, but adopted by the member states. And the second document, so that was in 2019. And in 2021, we all know what was happening. So indigenous people were seriously excluded, severely excluded from all communication channels affecting the pandemic. You all know that many indigenous communities are not part of the formal healthcare system, or for certain beliefs, they refuse to be vaccinated, or so we had to see also how to respect different confinement measures and decisions taken by indigenous people, and what kind of livelihoods they would have when tourism was totally cut. So there was no tourism activity happening. So that's when we stood up for the recovery of indigenous tourism, an inclusive recovery, and we produced with the World Indigenous Tourism Guide, World Indigenous Tourism Alliance, an inclusive recovery guide on indigenous peoples in tourism. And the next result of our joint work, as I said at the beginning, was a compendium of good practices in indigenous tourism. The regional focus was on the Americas. Why? Because in the Americas, we have one absolutely dominant language, that is Spanish. We also have Portuguese, we have other languages, but the communication and the vision of the brotherhood between the indigenous peoples and the issues they share in developing tourism at the local and community level are very similar. So there's a kind of cohesion. So now when we speak about Asia and the Pacific, maybe we have many more countries, but we also have the bulk of indigenous peoples living in the world, living in Asia. We are talking about 70 to 75% of the indigenous population of the whole world living in Asia and the Pacific. In the Americas, the percentage was minor, but of course, the cohesion of the people and the vision they have was very similar. So we illustrated good practices from around 15 countries, from both North and South America. We established the baseline research on indigenous tourism, why indigenous tourism has opportunities, but also management challenges. We also instigated governments to adopt policies and strategies that empower indigenous communities, that, let's say, create an enabling environment for indigenous people to thrive within their own communities, to prevent rural-urban migration, to help indigenous communities to preserve their culture for future, to preserve biodiversity, to preserve the natural resources on which their lives depend on. And of course, in this, how would a UN agency preach about local community development? How did we do that? Because through our partner, World Indigenous Tourism Alliance, we connected directly with community leaders from the Amazonian forest, from the Andean chain in Peru, to touch base with Quechua and Aymara people, from some of the archaeological sites in Central America where there are indigenous peoples, descendants of the Mayas, still living there. So that's how you reach the grassroots partners. Further on, I took this picture when I was in northern Vietnam many years ago. I think it is the Hmong people from northern Vietnam at a beautiful the beautiful market. Now we're going to see, when we get into interaction with indigenous people, and when we also get into interaction with the governments, local destinations, and companies, what are the main indigenous development issues? First of all, it is the meaningful and respectful cultural interaction, because we should understand that we are going to interact with other human beings that just have the culture that is different from ours. We should not consider it as an exotic experience that will transform our lives, and then we are not interested really in learning about the local culture. We have to think about how indigenous leaders can be promoted in indigenous leadership. We have to think in tourism, how tourism can help in safeguarding ancestral knowledge of indigenous peoples, because once lost, ancestral knowledge of indigenous people that is huge, that has to do with many medicinal plants, that has to do with local wisdom, that has to do with many local traditions, will be lost. We also have to create competitive and market-ready products, because we can't only consider social, like indigenous tourism as a social undertaking, because indigenous people need to create market-ready products that would make their undertaking sustainable on the market. And we also have to think on business management skills and digital technologies. As we are connected here today, of course, the ideal case scenario would be to have many indigenous leaders from the local level and community level intervening in the webinar. But if we have a digital divide, these people are not getting part of the story where we are talking about indigenous interests and indigenous cultures, because the connections are still not the same when it comes to urban and rural and remote areas. And when it comes to recommendations for national tourism administrations, in the case of the Americas, we've come up with with the following recommendation. And it's going to be interesting in the future to see if Asia and the Pacific will give us the same lessons learned. So when it comes to South and North America, we have come with the recommendations that the policies and strategies enabling indigenous tourism should be developed by the governments, that the governments are the ones to design legal and regulatory tools. They're the ones to also invest in infrastructure, education, and training, so indigenous people would stay on their territory, would be well connected, would have access to basic services. But we also need knowledge and data, because without data, it's very hard to move the investments. And we also need incentives for entrepreneurs. We need incentives for people who are cultural creators. All these things have to do, are related to each other. And there has to be a very good coordination with government agencies, destinations, and indigenous organizations and businesses. Because I would say that no traditionally vulnerable group, or that was traditionally marginalized, should be discussed in the offices of a government of an international organization like us or UNESCO, because it has to be driven by the local community, but in collaboration with all of us. And we also have recommendations for tourists engaging in indigenous experiences. That is part of our publication in the Americas. As I said, I would say that they would also apply to Asia and the Pacific realities, but we'll see. Maybe the research in the future will show us something different. First of all, planning the trip. It has to do with educating yourself. It's not the same when you want to immerse yourself into an indigenous community and going to a beach for 10 days of sun and beach vacation and having cocktails. So our mentality and our readiness to learn, open our hearts, and get rid of our rigidness needs to be there. We have to manage the expectations, because sometimes we folklorize indigenous people, as I said. We imagine that they will sell us souvenirs, and maybe they're not even working with textiles. Maybe they're working with wood. So we need to make sure that we understand how in this community that we are going to visit lives, and what kind of connection to the nature, culture, their spiritual past they have. And during the visit, it's very important to understand that we cannot have access to all spheres of life of indigenous communities, because there are some no-go spaces. So we have to have a guide or a facilitator that will help us understand why some places are sacred, why some places are reserved to one sex or another, why some places are reserved for children or for the elderly, and that we have nothing to search for there. So we need to understand and respect the local rules. So after the trip, that part is very important. I got very angry last year because I saw on LinkedIn a girl that was visiting, an influencer from Instagram that was visiting Papua New Guinea. So she took a selfie with a tribal leader in the mountains of Papua New Guinea. And she said, "Here I am with this incredible man that I found in the forest, in the middle of the forest. Wow, my life has changed." So this was a totally superficial way of promoting your experience of interacting with indigenous people. And social media should have a positive role, but not a negative role of speaking of indigenous people as human attractions or promoting their location if they don't want to attract more tourists, because we need to respect that as well, because they might be engaged in other economic activities, and we should just let indigenous communities decide what works for them. And this is the new project where I invite you all to contribute if you have something to say, if you have interesting experiences. This is a research to promote good practices in Asia and the Pacific. We have just started with a collection of good practices and interviews with people. It's going to be published next year. So we are going to research the intercultural dialogue leading to effective indigenous tourism policies in the region. We are going to see how indigenous peoples can leverage tourism and education for cultural transmission. We are going to see how associations and community organizations provide leadership. We are going to see how entrepreneurship and the development of experiences can develop indigenous tourism. And I put this last aspect in blue because this time we are going to have more nature management aspects as biodiversity preservation and tourism experiences in protected areas, because we know that biodiversity knowledge lies within the indigenous communities around the world. Thank you very much for your attention. This is the email of our department, Ethics, Culture, and Social Responsibility at UN Tourism. So in case you have any interesting story to share with us, we are happy to organize an interview with us and also have our colleagues from UNESCO Bangkok and World Indigenous Tourism Alliance being engaged so we can promote the success stories, what works well, and what needs to be improved. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much, Mr. Igor. I mean, like, I'm just clapping because the whole very holistic run-throughs of the global declarations, the recommendations, the studies that UN Tourism is undertaking. It shows like several different benefits and practice and good practices involving indigenous and local people in tourism development as well. And I hope that more and more people from ASEAN region will get to be involved in the regional report, the winter regional report that you're undertaking at the moment. So we have some questions from the audience. The first question, this is like what we pick already from the registrations, is from Mr. Yuttapom Jitkong from Thailand. He asks for your opinion on how we can encourage the government to implement tourism development policies in the way that is coherent to the diverse contexts of local communities. Would you be able to reflect on that a bit?
Thank you, Montakan. I think we have two perspectives here. First, we have the human rights policies that have to do with equality of all people within a country. So it's the responsibility of the governments to feel everybody part of the economic development affecting the livelihoods of local people at the community level, and especially indigenous peoples. The second one is a very interesting business opportunity because the governments should realize that by promoting cultural diversity and leadership of indigenous peoples, they're also promoting more visitors and more people being interested in the cultural brand, in the cultural diplomacy of the country that is undertaking these policies. So I would say it's a twofold approach. It's human rights, but it's also the business development and the promotion of a country at the marketing level that is a win-win situation for all.
Thank you. We have three more questions just to quickly go as well. Another question from India, Dr. Preeti Oza. And I think you already touched upon this issue from introducing the tourist recommendation and the compendium as well. Can you share with us, again, the important aspect of practices either by local government or tour operators or even from tourists to be a part in safeguarding the privacy and the safety and the respect of indigenous peoples while promoting tourism in their areas? Would you be able to emphasize on that one more time?
Thank you. Well, if our colleague from India takes a look at our report we produced with a focus on the Americas, with a special focus on that region, there we have different chapters, and we also have these different chapters for different stakeholders in the recommendations adopted by our General Assembly. So when it comes to the governments, I already said how can it be done. When it comes to the private sector, it has to do with the dialogue with indigenous peoples and making business undertakings together with indigenous people. That's when we have non-indigenous tourism operators and indigenous tourism operators working together. And when it comes to tourists, it's extremely important to promote responsible tourism guidelines and tips. So here we have a part of, as I said, self-education. So you educate yourself before you go, but I think there should always be a guide that is working either at the local community level that is from within the indigenous community and that has the knowledge of the local people, or it can be a combination of the tour operator's guide that already has respectful businesses run with the indigenous communities working side by side with the local host. So this is the way to have this smooth cultural facilitation. So we would just understand the messaging and put ourselves in a philosophy of people that do not have the same lifestyle as we do. So we would be able to understand what kind of vision of life, nature, or culture the people that we visit have. So it's all about respect and having a responsible behavior. I would say it's more of an observer attitude that later on goes into engagement.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Two more questions. This one is from Mr. Akila from Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So he's actually reflecting on when you were talking about the leadership coming from the indigenous people's community, and he would like to reflect on the aspect of the equality in access to the healthcare sector and the formal healthcare sector as well. Like, would that be one of the aspects that the UN Tourism would also consider in either the recommendations or the study? That would also be one of the kind of foundation in supporting the ability to become the leader for tomorrow of the indigenous peoples.
Thank you. Well, Andaman Islands are a very interesting reality because there are indigenous communities there, and they have an incredible knowledge of the seas and even the tsunamis. We know what happened in 2004, and they have incredible knowledge of the forest and the nature and incredible culture. So here, it would be important to, let's say, point out that in our recommendations, we mention the digital connection. We mentioned the healthcare services. We mentioned the infrastructure. But I would say if we are talking about access of indigenous communities to healthcare, we would have maybe the World Health Organization, if we are speaking about mandates, that would have to do with facilitating healthcare services for indigenous peoples by the governments. And I think, of course, the indigenous leaders at the community level are the ones who are really creating the dialogue with the local governments in terms of access to different local services. Because I don't think we would be the ones to describe how this access to healthcare services should be done, because we are not experts in a public healthcare system. But as a condition for indigenous people to stay within their territories and to keep schooling their children within their territories, to prevent migration and to enable indigenous people to run their businesses without healthcare system, of course, we are not improving the quality of life. So I would say it's one of the basic pillars.
Thank you. So thank you as well from Miss Aguila. Sorry for confusion of genders. Last question from Nepal. This one, I think this one from the education sector now. Like the previous was from the healthcare sector. So Miss Sunita Basnet from Nepal is asking whether there is a kind of arrangement that the UN or the UNWTO or UNESCO have to partner with academics to make sure that the conversation and the movement in terms of the tourism is moving towards sustainable development and rooted within the curriculum, the educational curriculum in different countries as well. So.
Is it speaking about sustainable development in general, or I should focus it on indigenous
aspect related to tourism, whether there's also a plan or a kind of project that would link sustainable tourism with the education sector, like, for example, enforcing it, mainstreaming it in curricula?
Thank you. Well, when it comes to education on sustainable tourism in general, we have something called UN Tourism Academy, There's gathering different knowledge creators, professors, and also universities around the world that are standing up for teaching these modules. And there are also different partnerships with different universities where there are master studies or pilots for sustainable tourism education. So this is something that is also a work streamline for UN Tourism. I'm not sure about UNESCO because sustainable tourism per se is under the mandate of UN Tourism. But so we always have people thinking that UN works as one single body, so UNESCO would have a different perspective. So we would educate tourism students on how to manage, develop, and market the sustainable development of tourism. So when it comes to indigenous tourism, we do have contacts with different partners who are also teaching at universities from the World Indigenous Tourism Alliance, who do teach at different universities on indigenous tourism development specifically. And in our publication on the Americas, there is one great educational center close to Iguazu Falls, that is the World Heritage Site between Argentina and Paraguay and Brazil. That is a Guarani indigenous community intercultural educational center. And in that part of Argentina, northern Argentina, it was already mainstreamed in the high education and vocational education curriculum of the people who live nearby. So they would be educated in indigenous tourism management already from the lower academic levels. So these are also some of the examples that exist out there. Thank you.
Thank you. We still have a lot of questions, but we don't have much time. So if Mr. Igor is still around, like you can also type to answers that either in the chat box or in the Q&A function, if you may. So, but in the meantime, thank you very much, Mr. Igor, for both for the presentation and the insightful answers. And there are like still questions streaming in. And if you would like to interact with the audience directly by typing, please be our guest. And also thank you for joining in such odd hours, in odd days in Spain at the headquarters of the UN Tourism as well. So as Mr. Igor rightly put, the necessity of working with indigenous and local community in achieving the greater good of the tourism, we also invited 4 more speakers who have long experience in the field to share some interesting case studies with us, and really apologize for all of them to have to wait for a few more minutes. So dear audience, all our 4 case study presenters are here, and we will have a long Q&A sessions afterward. So at the end of the 4 presentations, so if you have questions, please don't wait, type it in the chat box or the Q&A function of the Zoom, and they will be able to answer it after or during the presentations as well. So first, in the lineup of case study speakers is the well-known archaeologist, Professor Dr. Rasami Chukongdet. Professor Dr. Rasami is a professor of archaeology and a former chair of the Department of Archaeology, Silpakorn University in Thailand. Her areas of expertise cover Southeast Asia prehistory, cave archaeology, looting and heritage management, as well as cross-cultural comparative studies. She has worked extensively with local communities and public in Mae Hong Son and Kanchanaburi provinces in the Western Thailand and on heritage protection and education. At the international level, Dr. Rasami has been actively involved in archaeological activities in other countries in Southeast Asia, including Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Vietnam. She is the president of the Indo-Pacific Prehistory Association, or IPA, until 2024. And she is also an expert member of the International Committee on Archaeological Heritage Management, or ICAM, and an advisory body for several academic journals. So today, Ajahn Rasami will share with us an archaeological perspective on enhancing understanding and appreciation of indigenous cultures in tourism. Ajahn Rasami, please take the floor.
Okay, thank you. Let me share you the slide. Okay. Oops.
It's coming up.
Okay, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. And So first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to UNESCO and NASPA, together with the other collaborative partners, for extending an invitation for me to participate today's seminar. And I also thankful to the ethnic sister and brother who welcome Mang to me with warm and make me feel at the, a sense of place, which, I will present it as a case study today. So today I have two questions that have been asked by the UNESCO team. So I will highlight this two, so it will get to the point, on how can archaeological insight at the river sources enhance our understanding and appreciation of the ethnic culture within the tourist context. And the second one is, what are some of the challenges in balancing archaeological site preservation with the tourist access, and how I approach this challenge? And I will provide the case study at the Tamlot, cave in Bang Mapha, and, mention a little bit of Long Rak cave here. Okay, so let's look at the area that I work. The Tamlot is around here. This is Mae Hong province, borderland between Thailand and Myanmar. And in this area, we have at least 3 archaeological sites. But today I will mention only the Tamlot cave and Tamlot rock shelter, not this one, not the Long Rock. Okay. And okay. Now, let's look at the background of the case study that I'm talking about. We're talking about the Tamlot village, which is located in the karstic landscape, which have a long river drainage that pass through the village, and also through the cave, the Tamlot cave. And the Tamlot cave is the very well-known archaeological site and very tourist destination for Mae Hong and northern Thailand. The Lang River is, is part of the major kind of like, the source for the consumption of the whole village, and not just only the Tamlot village, but also other villages also. Now let's look at the community itself. The village is just recently settled, in this area. It's 1969. So when, if you're just talking about the indigenous, I prefer to use the ethnic, community, because I work on the oral history and the historical and archaeological context of not only the archaeological site, but also the village and the ethnic, community who live in Bang Mapha area. But here I just talk about the Tamlot, which is the main group of the people who occupied this village, is the Shan. So there are 2 main groups: it's the Shan with the Thai nationality and the Shan without Thai nationality, which make the community-based archaeology is far more complicated when you're working on that. And when you look at the, community involvement, I also would like to provide you the information on the community structure that have a village, school, community hospital, and the Tamlot Nature and Wildlife Educational Center. So when you work, you not just work as an archaeologist, you work with the people and also the structure there. For the natural heritage at the Tamlot, you have a major Tamlot cave and the Tamlot rock shelter, and the also the key part of the Lang River which flow through the Tamlot cave is run through the Pai River in Pai district, and then connect to the Sarawin River. It's a border between Thailand and Myanmar. So the whole river tributary that you can see that you have to work on the regional settle. You see that this is create the sense of kind of like cultural connectivity between the different groups within the region. So when you work on on this region, you cannot just simply work on just one site. You have to connect it more, both local and regional, picture. So we also have a Chan culture and tradition and also archaeological heritage in this area. I just want to show you the Tumlot. This is the magnificent kind of like, national cave, and within inside the cave, you have archaeological site. And okay. And this is the Shan culture. People still practice their tradition and their belief system, Buddhism and also animism. So if you live in the village and you observe them and you participate with the community, with 12 months, you see the different kinds of like, cultural tradition there. Okay, and here. So let's look at the archaeological site. And the first question that, when I got the question is, how can archaeological insight at the river sources, help us to understand and appreciate the ethnic culture within the tourism context? This cave, people already kind of like, manage the local people, and also the forestry department already manage the site to a certain extent. And then, they also, arrange all of the local tourism that conduct by the Tumlot villager. And this is inside the cave, you see the log coffin, which is the Iron Age that is date to like, between 2000 years ago. And this cave is the major asset to the Tumlot village. Okay, and this is the tourist management by the people, the local people. So the group of the people, the local, there are two groups. One is the one that the lantern holding guide, that also, guiding people to the cave, explain to them about the formation and the cave formation, and also the archaeology information. And also another group is the bamboo rafting inside the cave. This two activity is separate from the forestry department, who often just kind of like, you pay the fee to them, that's all. And they kind of like, they are the ownership of the cave legally. So what happened here is, you have maybe during October to January is the highest season. And after that, it's kind of like slow. So this whole thing that happened for, over 30 years ago. And let's look at this. So the challenge that just only the cave itself that I found, because I work in the area, and I excavate the site that it's in the same area, is in the rock shelter. But the local, seem to interested in more of the cave, because it's as I told you, it's the economic benefit. But what happened in here, from the archaeological perspective, you see more of the destruction of the archaeological heritage inside the cave. And often the time, the tourists complain both verbally and also, written, on the no information or no storytelling for the tourists at the site. And because of the, destruction of archaeological heritage, no conservation plan from the forestry department, who in charge of this cave, or even the fire art department, who is cultural, kind of like ownership, all the cultural ownership, is belong to the fire art department. Nothing like that. So we can see the conflict of the ownership of the archaeological site. The villager use the cave as an economic asset, but they have no ownership, in terms of legally. And so what can we do as a researcher, as an outsider? I see myself as an outsider. Okay, so what should we do? How to balancing the archaeological site preservation with the tourist access and the approach to this challenge? I have been working in this area since 1998. So this is just one case of the example of many, many case study that I have been working. I'm not only working in Pamapa, but I'm working in the different district in Mahson as well. So to give you the example that what we approach this challenge is we start doing the community-based archaeology involving local people, learning their culture. We're not going there and say that, we know everything. No, we just go as a outsider and learning something from them and integrate their knowledge into the public education. We have scientific research and also historical and different aspects that, of research that we conduct. So we do the public education on the conservation, archaeology, local history, arts, and, design, product, media, a lot of things, different time period. And we just adjust it, to do the, how we're going to do the kind of like, best practice within our kind of like, environment. In order to raise the awareness of the nature and the cultural heritage, we have geologists that work with us on the task, forest and the product, and also plant, animal, wildlife. We link between the past and the present in order to create the sense of belonging. Once our story that published a lot through the media, I think that people, especially the younger generation, they feel the sense of belonging that archaeology, the oldest site, is belong to us. It's in our village. Okay, so this is to give you the example. This site is just close by, just about 300 meters apart from the Tamlor, the main major asset that for the village. But the thing is, no one, really use this case as a, tourist destination, partially because it's not beautiful cave, but it just kind of like the site, the rock shelter, simple, moderate site, But the thing is, the information about it, it's just extraordinary because the site is date to the 35,000 to 2,000 years ago, and we found the evidence of the female. And we did the facial reconstruction that the same person, Dr. Susan Hay, who did the Homo florensis in forest in Indonesia. And this is one of the oldest sites in northern Thailand. And we get the evidence of this. And when we link it to the broader picture, is one of the few sites. Oh, I'm sorry, the Philippines is just kind of like Tabong Cave and also Kalau. And this is the kind of like, the site that later on when we have a lot of media, in the television, I think that local students really kind of like want to learn more about this. And we thought that will be something that will kind of like, help us to really integrate into the Tamlot also. So the tourists kind of like, route is not only tourists only go to the Tamlot, but they can stop here to look at the early evidence, and then later on, they can go to another site. But unfortunately, this site, is something that is in the forestry department control. So people don't feel really comfortable in terms of, getting involved to that. So what did we do? The approach that, to this challenge, we have a lot of community participation, meeting with people, provide them the information of the site, that how important of the site. I have working there for like, so many projects, and we did, provide them the progress of every, project that we did. We talked to the school, we talked to the senior and the youth and the hospital and kindergarten. So throughout many years, so we combine this just to see, that what is the best approach, okay? And this is something that we did is the youth workshop, and we try to at least, have them practice the storytelling. Why we do that? Because I think that they should have their own storytelling. We tell them, what is the fact, but they can integrate, into their story, their experience, and talk to the tourists. The reason that we introduce them this site because of so in the tourist season, which is the cave is very crowded. This can be another solution that people can stop here, so you will not overcrowd inside the cave. Okay, so another way that we do is we do the workshop on the conservation. The conservation that we talk about is, not only the culture, the archaeological culture, but it's contemporary culture and also natural heritage. So this kind of we did it for repeatedly, because you cannot do just one time and stop. You have to do it repeatedly until, people feel it by heart and they can integrate it, to their own kind of storytelling. And also we have a workshop on creative media, because the student can work on the TikTok, IG, or the whatever Facebook that they feel comfortable, and they make their own video, and then they tell the story about their cultural heritage and archaeology and national heritage. And we got the student from the Rangsit University who kind of help us in terms of working together with the student. And not only for the student in the community, we also promote the area by having a workshop on the conservation work, international workshop training, which is we have a scientist, practical training. So if you have something at the site, what should you do? You can record the site. You can, do the basic conservation, which you can use the brush to clean the coffin, record it under supervision that we kind of be with them. And then, we have a scientist from the fire art department who also be with us. This is the training. We also, work very hard on the disseminate, the information to the public. So we have podcasts, TV program, public education regularly. So we make sure that the whole kind of information on the archaeology, the local people, culture, and also the national heritage integrate into one place. And the story have to be the local people who tell the story. We are just, outsider. We just provide the fact. We always know our place, that we are not owning their own history. This is people history, the local, people history. And this is part of the information. So in conclusion, this is very short, but I hope that you can get the point. I think that the long-term and regional research is necessary for archaeologists and heritage practitioners. You cannot do just 1 year and then you say that you success it. It has to be long-term. You have to gain the trust from the people that you work with, and you have to consistency in provision of guide and conservation training. And also the story have to link to the present. You cannot simply just talking about the past. You have to tell them. We find the Himalayan coral. We talk about the climate change that happened. the archaeological site, we found a lot of animal, and we talk about the change that happened in the whole area. So people, see, and they can see that what changed in our area. And scientific, I think research is still necessary, and can be compromised by integrate approach, especially the humanity approach, that oral history, music, arts, something that is very important. I did that. I integrate with the arts also, and understanding the community, local history, and the political context is a very important part of archaeological research. To make a success, you have to understand that. You don't go there and have a dream that everything is just beautiful. No. And ethnoarchaeology, community archaeology, and heritage management is something that is really important for the researcher to recognize that and empower community to have the sense of ownership, because the fine art department will claim their ownership, of the cultural heritage, of the Thai heritage. Everything archaeology is the fine art department. So you have to really encourage people that this is part of your heritage also. That is very important. It's different from the Philippines, different from the American, that you have the indigenous ownership. In this case, it's slightly different. I just give you the example before I, close. I did this. We did have a route that we did it, like a journal through time in the myth of Manson. So this is based on the archaeology from the prehistory until World War II. So the cycle, the route is Bangpapa, where we're working. We're talking about this. So you travel in cycle. In Manson, you travel because of the lock, the trade during the Borneo, British Borneo, that they trade the lock, the teak. This is triangle, and World War II is the straightforward. And another district is rectangular, and we have a product that is related to the contemporary society as well. We have podcasts and also video and music, music that go along with the route, that we design. Thank you. I hope that
Thank you.
you can make it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I let you go over time because it's so inspiring.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, Ajahn Rasami, for setting this very right and inspiring tone for our webinar. That truly we want to encourage community and youth involvement, and you're just on point about that. Not just involvement, the ownership and the actions that would come after in heritage safeguarding as well. And it's a true very meaningful example of public archaeology. I mean, we really revere you as the person that's more like an archaeologist outside the box, so to say. And I'm sure that the questions, the audience are penning the questions right now while we go on to the next speaker. So thank you very much again, Ajahn Rasami, the president of IPA. And our next speaker is actually from Cambodia. We're going to fly through from the northern part of Thailand to Cambodia now. Mr. Sopip Shim is the Deputy Director and a Development and Environment Program Manager of the Archaeology and Development Foundation, or ADF. Mr. Shim has over 18 years of experience in community development programs through ecotourism and environmental conservation activities. Starting his career as a birdwatching guide, he later joined a Tonle Sap-based NGO Osmos as an ecotourism program manager in 2009 and was nominated as the first Cambodian executive director of Osmos in 2013. After his retirement from Osmos, he worked as a general manager for an eco-tour operator, Buffalo Trails, until 2020 before joining Angkor Center for Conservation of Biodiversity, or ACCB, as an outreach and education program manager until April 2024. Mr. Shim just started his executive role at the ADF as the deputy director earlier this month. So I'll take this opportunity as well to congratulate you on your new position, Mr. Shim. And
Thank you.
the floor is yours to present about the ecotourism practices in Tonle Sap, Cambodia. Please.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, let me take the opportunity to thank UNESCO Bangkok for giving me an opportunity to join this interesting workshop online webinar concerning the topic Untold Journeys, Sharing Ethnic Story from the River and the Seas. And I bring a topic concerning the ecotourism on the Tonle Sap Lake to share with you all based on the previous experience and the recent experience that I have here at Ecology and Development Foundation, called ADF, as a deputy director. So let me first explain you about what is unique about the Tonle Sap Lake. I guess most of the majority of all the participants probably not from Cambodia, I think from different country in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN. So some of the participants may don't know our Great Lake in Cambodia. So the name of the lake is called Tonle Sap. It is the beating heart of Cambodia. And if you see on the map, it is located almost in the heart of the country. And the lake is huge, actually. So in a dry season, it's between 2,500 to 3,000 square kilometer, while you compare to the raining season is up to 9,000 to 14,000 square kilometer. So it's huge. So the name of the lake called Tonle Sap. Tonle is mean lake or river, Sap is mean fresh water. So if you combine the two words together, it's mean like freshwater lake or freshwater sea. We could call it as a sea because it's big, right? So there are 6 provinces surrounding the lake. So for this presentation that I am going to see, I just focus on the ecotourism in Siem Reap region. Yeah, we focus on in Siem Reap region. Yeah. So the Tonle Sap Lake is the most important ecosystem in Cambodia, and the lake here have very unique hydrological phenomenon, the reverse flow of the lake. So every year in the raining season, the water flow from Mekong to the lake count from June to October. And in dry season count from November to May, the lake is reversed and flowing back to Mekong. So with this exceptional phenomenon, make the lake less polluted and very productive ecosystem. Especially there are a lot of fish and different species on the lake. So here is the seasonal of the lake, as you can see here. So the lake is changing a lot. So the expert divided into 4 different seasons. Like nowadays we are in the like still dry, April and May, so still very dry here. And then soon it will go to the water rise up in June, July, and then peak season is in October. And then we have the flood season in October and the water receding in November, December, January. Yeah. Next, please. Yeah. Sorry. So this picture here is showing you about the unique ecosystem of the lake. So in Cambodia, we call this lake as a priceless natural heritage. So in terms of nature, it is a masterpiece of nature. Compared to Cambodia, we have another World Heritage Site called Angkor Wat. It's the masterpiece of culture and civilization. So we have the unique hydrological phenomenon like the largest lake in Southeast Asia. So the water is the most important, and then we have the ecology of the flooded forest. It is the largest flooded forest habitat remaining in Southeast Asia. And we have water, we have forest. That's why we have a lot of fish and other species on the lake, including bird, like the largest water bird colony in Southeast Asia. And moreover, the lake known as the world's largest snake harvest on Earth. Yeah. So hydrology, ecology, and economy, fish and other species in the lake are so important for the people living on the lake. And ornithology, the largest water bird colony, and the herpetology is the largest snake harvest on Earth, including different species, including one of the endemic species on the lake that you don't find it in anywhere on Earth. Is called the lizard water snake. Next, please. So the resources of the lake. So I put just 3 pictures, but there are more than that. Actually, the lake resources is very unique and so important for people living on the lake. So there are like about 3 million living on the lake, and they are depending directly on the lake resources. So we have fish as the most important is the world top fishery in the Tonle Sap Lake, and we have a lot of wildlife species, especially water bird is the largest water bird colony in Southeast Asia. And on the lake, there are million people living on the lake, and they are made their living by fishing and related activity concerning fishery. And moreover, we have a beautiful and most important Tonle Sap flooded forest. Flooded forest is the tree that growing in the water, and they adapt their biology system living in the lake, flooded in the rainy season and drought in the dry season. And that forest is so important for the fish breeding, and with all the fishes like in the lake is allow the life of 1 million people living on the lake. So come deep to our topic today is concerning the ecotourism or community-based ecotourism on the Tonle Sap Lake, on and around Tonle Sap Lake. So as the lake is huge, so the topic that I am going to share based on my experience today is only 3 different sites on the Tonle Sap Lake. One is called Prektol Bird Sanctuary, like the largest floating village on the Tonle Sap Lake. For this is based on my experience with Osmos NGO, Osmos Conservation Education and Ecotourism. And then I'm going to say a little bit about the community living on the steel house called Kampong Kleng and also Kampong Klok. Next, please. So what are the attractions for the ecotourism in Prektol floating village on the Tonle Sap Lake? So the main attraction there is the bird sanctuary. So you may heard about this largest water bird colony in Southeast Asia. So on the Tonle Sap Lake, they preserve the area more than 20,000 hectares, and there are more than 200 species of water bird living and breeding in that region. And before they start to protect the area, the main threat for the species there is the overfishing, bird egg collections, and bird hunting in that region. So seeing all these challenges, so these many NGOs start to conserve this site from 2001 under the main authority in Cambodia is the Ministry of Environment, have designed the lake as the zone of biosphere reserve, and Prektol is one of the core in the Tonle Sap biosphere reserve. So another attraction is the Tonle Sap flooded forest. So flooded forest, beside home for fish breeding and other species breeding, it is become very attractive for the tourists. Besides seeing the bird, they also like to experience in the flooded forest on the traditional paddleboat or the small canoe to experience and learn about the species of tree and the beauty of the flooded forest and the unique adaptation of the flooded forest in the Tonle Sap Lake. Next. Other attractions in Prektol is the traditional lifestyle of the people living in the floating village. So everything is floating on the water, and their lives become very interesting and very attractive for most of tourists from different countries who never see this kind of lives in their country, right? So fishing technique, how the people fishing on the lake is also one of the attractions that the tourists want to see, and how people living on the lake. And other attraction in Prektol is the interaction with the villager. Most of the tour company, especially the tour company that organize their visit through community-based ecotourism supported by Osmos organization, they actually design different tourist activity for the people to experience, including the local handicraft where the woman can train the tourists on how to view and to make basket or mat or placemat. And they encourage people to grow the vegetable on the water. We call it floating garden. It is one of the interesting activity that the people can learn about how the people living on the lake can grow the vegetable. Community homestay and also community cooking group. So the group that trained by Osmos to organize food for the tourists. So next is another community living on the lake as well. You may notice the picture of the village. So they look a bit different from Brekdal. Brekdal community, they are living on the floating houses. While this community here, they're living on the high steel houses, about 8 meters high from the ground. So the community is flooded in the rainy season and dry in the dry season. So the attraction for Kampong Kliang is very similar to Brekdal as well. So flooded forest, boat tour, village tour, homestay, and cooking extra. Yeah. And same as Kampong Pluk community. So all they have very similar attractions. So that's why I just put one slide. So as example, how it look like. So boat tour, homestay, sunset tour, flooded forest tour, and cooking. And the view of the village on still on the Tunle Sap Lake is very attraction for the tourists. Yeah. And so here come to my recent job that I just joined with the Ecology and Development Foundation for the Phnom Kulen program. So Phnom Kulen, if you see on map here, that is Phnom Kulen. It is one of the second national park designed by the Royal Degree in 1993. And the size is really big. Until now, after the size been expanded, it is more than 60,000 hectares. And here you can see the lake on this side. So in Siem Reap regions, Kulen or Phnom Kulen National Park is this the main and the most important water set for the whole region. So there is so many river catchment to the lake. Right? So in Siem Reap, there are at least 3 river catchment. So over here, I just speaking about one river from Kulen National Park to the lake. So the water set is connect from the mountain to the lake through this river. And those water during the rainy season, it's been used for all the agriculture crop around Siem Reap region. Yeah. And in this area, with support or coordinates by ADF, we also established 2 different community-based ecotourism sites on the mountains. One is called Lung Thom CBT and another one is called Bupe CBT. Next. So the community-based ecotourism activity in the mountain is slightly different from the lake, of course, but are both important. So in the mountain, there are different activities that the tourists can experience and with support from the local community and ethnic group living on the mountain. So they're providing like food, like land box organized by the cooking group, packed for the tourists when they are in the forest, and they can organize forest trekking to see the forest and temple on site and see waterfall. And we have like local guide service for the tourists and also motor transport to transport the tourists around the mountain to see the different sites on the mountain. And moreover, we also helping the community to use their traditional technique, which most people, most of tourists don't know about their technique. It's local technique, but it's very useful. And we encourage them to use those techniques to make kind of handicraft from palm leaf and different live from the jungle on the mountain to create kind of souvenir product and sell for tourists who visiting their community. So these are some example of the handicraft that made by the community living on the mountain, including the basket. And we have also traditional blacksmith maker who can make different kind of tool, knives, and different kind of tool for farming tool as well. I think this is all about the community-based ecosystem on the lake and including the Kule National Park. So if you may have any question, you can drop in the text box. So I'm happy to share with you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sopip Shim, for taking us through this very interesting project in Tonle Sap by ADF. And we have seen like a lot of different activities by diverse groups of villagers and people living along, like who basically making a living in the Tonle Sap as well. So dear audience, please also put your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A functions, and we're going to grab that at the end of the 4 presentations. So let us now fly back to Thailand, but this time we're going to go to the north. I think the north to the west, with an ethnic group respectfully called Pagagayo, which is what I'm wearing today as well. We have here with us one of their young generation who is helping his community pivoting amid the changing world. So Mr. Nadanai Trakan Supagon is a Pagagayo Karen native who is also a law graduate, who is now run several social enterprises in Thailand, such as Honey Brand, Host Beehive, and an organic farm training center called Little Farm in Big Forest. At the same time, he works as a researcher at 2 NGOs, Pagagayo Association for Sustainable Development, or PASD, and the Indigenous Knowledge and Peoples in Mainland Southeast Asia Foundation. His aspiration is to show the world how local foods and seasonal crops from traditional rotational farming of Pagagayo people can lead to sustainable food security and livelihood independence of small communities. He recently co-founded the Rotate, dubbed as an indigenous digital content channel. This is what he will share with us today. So Mr. Dadanai, if you are ready, please take the floor.
Thank you. Can I share the slide? Okay. Okay. Omushuper is a hello in Pagagayo language. My name is Dadanai, and you can call me, the short name is Jam, is my nickname. And I am indigenous people in Thailand, and I am in Pagagayo or Karen tribe. Yeah. And today I will tell you about the story of Pagagayo. In the first, I want to introduce you. In Pagagayo communities, we do like a rotational farming is a main traditional agriculture we do, and the main job of us to do the farming, and we call Khư Chui. And this Khư Chui is included in Thailand's national ICH inventories. And in rotational farming is we have very diverse the local products, like we found like in the one field of rotational farming, we found 117 species of local products, and can feed us in the community like a seasonal product. And not the rotational farming is not only to produce a product for us, but we like a rotational farming is like a space of us to like link the elders, the knowledge holder in the community, link with the young generation to transmit knowledge, come to meet together, and can make the traditional knowledge can maintain in the communities. And the one thing of a rotational farming, we want to make people outside understand about this, because we have a process like a slash and burn. But in the good way, you can see in the National geographic articles, they said these farmers slash and burn forests, but in a good way, because we have knowledge to manage, and we understand the tree, we understand the forest, and you can see the pictures of in the right side, the trees after we slash and burn, it become the new one. Yeah, and this practice is we do more than 300 years to do like this, and we need to communicate more to people outside. We do the not only to communicate only, but we do the database, like we do the research, and we found a lot about the data to support about the rotational farming, and like this we found like rotational farming is mitigation carbon like 438 tons, and carbon storage of rotational farming and fallow land is 17,000 tons. You can see the different one, and when we found like this, we need to to talk, to communicate to people outside, understand about what we do in the community, what the Pacagayo people do, and this rotational farming is one of methods of us to protect our forest like that. And in 2018, we start to do rotational farming festival in the Bangkok, in the urban area, and we invite the people in the communities, in Pacagayo communities, like 20 communities come, like in the north and in the west come, and we do like a workshop, we do like a meeting, we do have a conference in the high policy, and we do like a exhibition and a mini concert like that to communicate people outside understand about our story. And now we after that we develop more like I tell you, rotational farming is not only the space to do the farming, but it's a space to to link the people to talk together. And we start to build the brand name, the Rotate. It's a digital content channel of Pacagayo people. And we think we use the main thinking of a rotational farming come to be like in digital, like in digital content channel, like you can see we have topic human wisdom, natural resource management, spiritual knowledge, and this space we think we need the content created from the communities come to tell own story, and we start the process. In the first, we start to invite youth leaders in the current community in the north and in the west come, and we do training together, and we link with like professional communications person, like the writers, professional writers, the like who do like a mainstream media like that. But we try to design like to tell about the story of the grassroots. And in the first time we do like we have 17 content creators in 7 provinces and 12 current community, you can see in the map. And the youth of content creators, they have a lot of story in the communities, and they try to design how to communicate, like they do the videos, podcasts, they do like photo essays like that. And when we do like this, we have a lot of articles now, and we start to like the opening of the Rotate, like we do the Rotate festival, and we invite 22 Pacagayo communities in the north and in the west, not only to join, but come to design, to create this event together. And you can see in these pictures, all of people to come to prepare about this festival is from Pacagayo communities. And like when they do like the how to design the workshop of eco-print of to natural diet or to do the building in the festival. All of team is from Prakatayo communities, and you can see we this thing is is very important because it make them have awareness to like to think like this is our work, this is our life. We want to communicate in the rotate festival like that. And I will show you about like a short videos in the rotate festival. Admin, can you share the videos?
Sure. Wow. สลับค่ะ Okay.
Okay. Okay, this is all of the Rotate Festival we do in this January, and this festival is not only to connect the community to communities to work together, and this is a space to communicate about our story by the food, by the workshop, by the our voice like that. And I think this event will connect us to outside, like in the exhibition. We connect with the friend like a social enterprise in the urban area in the Bangkok, named Here and Found. And we do a lot about how to communicate the story of the writers and rotational farming by the sound. And we have Here and Found come to work together in the communities and to show about like rotational farming voice and the voice from the people in the community want to talk to people outside and use this exhibition to like very active in the festivals. And when we do the rotate festivals, we will found a lot of young people have aware about the communication. And after that, we explore more. We go to communities and we found in every communities come to join with us. They have the people need to communicate about their own story because some community they do a social enterprise and not only to sell the product, but they need use the product to connect the people outside, understand them like that. And in the process we co-design, we co-create together like what we have in the content we want to share to people outside. And we have equipment like a mobile phone, and they can do by themselves like that. And we try to build the space in the communities and can create the space, can like communicate by themselves like that. You can see in the pictures like the women group in Hue Kang, they try to do the live of the product, seasonal product, and they do like a market in the communities, and they live every week to show about the what we do in the communities. And we focus more in the young people. And now we have a team around 7 communities have like a local content creators, yeah, in indigenous communities. And in the process we do the training of how we do communication in the easy way, like because some of community they don't have Wi-Fi, they don't have internet, but they have like a mobile phone to take photos, take pictures like that. And we try to design together and do in the easy way, and you can post in on Facebook like that. Yeah. And not only to build the content creators, and we try to like after we do the rotate festival, we found we see a lot of the Pakakayo influencers in the communities. Some people they go to study in the urban area, and they come back to the communities like want to do like influencers, YouTubers, TikTokers like that. And like this we do collaborate to do documentary about the story of bicultural person. Bicultural person is mean like this person is no identities, no own like a traditional knowledge, no own communities, and no outside too. And this one we start to do these documentaries, and we will do like a series is 4 chapters like that. And in the last week we start to invite the Pakakayo influencers come and have like to do the networking, like to come to talk about the mindset, why you do like an influencer, why you want to communication, and how we design to work together. Because we have the same content, like we want to tell people outside like we are Pakakayo people, we live with the forest, and we want to protect the forest by our traditional knowledge like that. Yeah, and we start to do networking and do decide to work together. And one thing is important in the communication way, like we do a experience, because we invite the people outside, like we have artists, we have a chef, we have a designer, we have a people, they work in the university, like that, in the government side too, to do rotational farming workshop and come to communities and have the people in community do the workshop, and to tell about the story of the communities. Like we do the seasonal calendar, we do like decide the product of from rotational farming products, like that,
Yeah.
and talk a lot about rotational farming practice. And the last thing is we not only to talk outside only, but we need to talk inside the community too. The transmit knowledge is very important. We start to like a capacity building, the knowledge holder, and we do like a by curriculum, like we invite the elders, the knowledge holder in the communities, go to the school and teach about the rotational farming practice, teach about our knowledge, like that, to do this very active space in the school, like that. Like this one is a very good example. Like in the summertime, we have a rice mold from rice on rotational farming, and in the school they start to invite people in community come and teach about how to do the rice mold, and this we brew like a rice spirit, and this rice spirit we use in the ritual, like that. This is our work, and I think the important thing is we do like this because we need to the young people proud in own identities and proud in our story, our content. Thank you.
Thank you
W.
very much, the Blue Jam. And this is like, thank you for such very like, going into the details, and very excellent example of communities really leading the tourism for their own hometowns. And I'm thrilled to see as well how things have been advancing in such way that you just presented, and we're like twins right now. So I'm sure that the audience also have many comments and questions to share. So please put that in the chat box and question function of the Zoom. We will pick them up at the Q&A session. So we'll go over time for about 15 minutes just for you to enjoy the full energies of all our presenters. So that goes to our last case study. So Miss Ulari, sorry that you are waiting for a while. Coming all the way from the Ifugao Rice Terrace of the Philippine Cordilleras, Miss Ulari Dulnawand is currently working for the Cordillera Regional Museums of the National Museum of the Philippines. With degrees in tourism and environment, she has served as tourism officer at the national, provincial, and municipality level for several years. Notable projects include the Nakakadan Open Air Museum. She also took part in the formation of the tourism organizations such as Kiangan Homestay Association, Kiangan Eco Tour Guides, and Heritage Ambassadors, Kiangan Producers Association. She then entered the academia working as an assistant professor at the Ifugao State University prior joining the National Museum. Ms. Ulari is also the president of the Ifugao Intangible Heritage and Performing Arts Society and is an active member of the Kiangan Community Heritage Volunteers. So today, certainly she will share with us some lessons learned and ongoing works in promoting sustainable tourism among Ifugao people of the Rice Terrace of the Philippine Cordilleras. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Ms. Ulali.
Thank you so much. If we'll have right. So good afternoon to us all. My name is Lali Dulnuan from the National Museum of the Philippines and a community heritage volunteer. I am from Ifugao, a cultural and indigenous community here in Northern Luzon in the Philippines. allow me to share with you a presentation on promoting sustainable tourism among Ifugao people of the rice terraces of the Philippines. We'll be answering 3 questions, one on challenges and opportunities, another on ensuring cultural integrity, on tourism development programs, and finally, the role of National Museum and other educational institutions on shaping sustainable tourism among ethnic people. So let's have the next slide. If we are to agree what sustainable tourism is, if we are to say it is the balance between economic gain and heritage conservation, then indeed, sustainable tourism is a very challenging area. So balancing community involvement and commercial interest is very crucial for sustainable tourism development. We have several challenges in the next slide. We have several challenges in promoting sustainable tourism in our area here in Ifugao. I have identified at least 3. There's the concentration of tourism in Banawe. It's been an enclave since it's been there since 1970s. So promotions for Banawe has been very, very strong. So this neglects the other equally rich World Tourist Heritage sites, such as municipalities of Hungduan, Kiangan, and Mayuyao. There's also very insufficient and lack of marketing efforts on telling potential tourists and potential visitors about ethnic tourism experiences within the other heritage sites. And so there should be more attention on putting up a province-wide tourism master plan to level the field, so then the other World Heritage sites would have also a chance at heritage and sustainable tourism. We have so much opportunities, fortunately. One, the international recognition of the Ifugao rice terraces as a World Heritage Site as inscribed by UNESCO, and then as a globally important agricultural heritage system as designated by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. So this opens doors for potential sustainable tourism development. Next, please. Another recognition is the hudhud chants and punok tagging rituals as part of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. So these are present or inscribed in the representative list of UNESCO. So these are unique selling points for tourism, and these are situated not in Banawe but in Kiangan and in Hongduan. These are other World Heritage sites. Another opportunity would be the presence of educational institutions and organizations. So the strong presence of the Ifugao State University, and then of course the National Museum of the Philippines, as well as a non-government organization called the Save the Terraces movement. So together, we provide education and research assistance to the public, to visitors as well as to community members. Next, please. So in Kiangan, in the municipality of Kiangan, we have organized community groups. And this is a great opportunity because all sectors are represented in these groups. So we have the Kiangan Ecotourism Heritage Ambassadors. These are actually tour guides. We have the Kiangan Producers Association. They make cultural products, and this serve as great mementos and souvenir items. We have Kiangan Weavers Association. They bring out or they create beautiful textiles. We have Kiangan Homestay Associations. They take care of the accommodation facilities in the area. We don't have hotels. We only have homestays and pension houses. We have the Kiangan Cool Tours. This is a local tour operator consisting of several service providers. And we have the group Ifugao Intangible Heritage and Performing Arts Society. We took it upon ourselves to educate the youth and even the elderly on heritage and history of the area. And we provide ethnic performances for visitors. And then finally, this one's kind of very recent, the Kiangan Community Heritage Volunteers. We came up with several educational activities such as recently putting up a photo exhibit of the turn of the century history and the practices during the early 1900s. Next, please. We also have as an opportunity the roadmap for the Philippine Development Plan for Culture and the Arts. And starting this year, we will be working towards the establishment of creative communities and actively engaging artists and cultural workers in these creative communities. So this would be ready in time for Agenda 2030. Next, please. So to ensure, for the question on ensuring that cultural integrity will be present in tourism projects, we do this through stakeholder consultations. In here, the picture shows that community members are consulted and their inputs are also considered when putting up an open-air museum. Consultations are also done through the Kiangan Tourism Council and the Kiangan Culture and Arts Council. So inputs from the community are very much considered. There's also community awareness programs. Somehow through technical trainings, we put across the concepts and principles of sustainable tourism development. So somehow the trainees would get an idea of what sustainable tourism development is. And then finally, there's the immersive experiences for the tourists, which actually are also immersive experiences for the host community and the host family. In here, we show a Korean trying to feed the chicks. So this must have been a first-time experience for him. And here, there's a Japanese lady being taught how to handle the backstrap loom. And we have a group of students trying their hand on harvesting the palay or the rice grains. So these are immersive experiences that somehow involves the host community intimately. Finally, we also have more than the tourists, we also have skills training programs for community members. So we have basic weaving, we have rice wine brewing, performing arts such as gang beating, basketry, housekeeping, of course, and cookery. So this somehow preserves traditions, but more they offer unique tourism experiences. So on the role of educational institutions like museums and the academe on shaping sustainable tourism practices, this is very much felt here in this community. So it's a two-way approach. There's the visitor. We directly educate the museum visitors through telling stories behind each and every display item. So somehow they get to know the history of one item, so then we can put in the story of the St. Louis Exposition or St. Louis Fair. So then they get to know more about the history of what happened before. Then there's also, we need to ensure their continuing interest by the regular museum educational programs that we do annually. And more importantly, we need to give trainings for community members that directly links them to tourism. So there's indigenous cuisine. We need to somehow make sure that the cuisine that we are proud of is in a standard that would be acceptable for visitors. There's textile weaving, there's rattan weaving for basketries, and then there's performing arts. So all this for community members to prepare them for tourism. So somehow we have to foster pride of place, and we need to make sure that they have active awareness of the history and heritage of the area. So we conduct schools of living tradition for performing arts. So the children here are being taught how to chant the hudhud. The children here are being taught how to beat the gongs, and somehow through making sure that the youth and the elderly would maybe like to participate as community heritage volunteers. We try to make as many activities to engage these volunteers. So a recent one is the photo exhibit that we recently conducted, and it's not just a photo exhibit. We come up with the guided tours and we tell stories of the past, and somehow we do side events such as competitions and the photographs, coffee sessions discussing the contents of the photo exhibit. Then for the Ifugao State University, the academe, they have a very strong tourism management program. And through the program, we have to put in or add in or make sure that heritage tourism, that indigenous tourism and sustainable tourism principles and concepts are imbibed by the students to guide them as they go through their tourism career. And then finally, to conclude, for us to really foster sustainable tourism among indigenous peoples and indigenous communities, it requires a multifaceted approach. So it's not just educating, but it's also promoting and empowering the local communities and making sure that the heritage, whether it's culture or nature, this should be safeguarded. And we can only do this through education of both the visitor, but more so the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Miss Lari. And so we are entering, everybody, we're entering to the Q&A sessions with our speaker. And Miss Lari just gave us a very hopeful end note to our webinar today with like all these like new initiatives that are happening right now in Ifugao as well. So we have asked you all at the registration to provide us some of the questions that you would like to ask the speakers. And we have received like several dozens of them. So here are some of our pick, while of course it's available that you can type your questions right now to the chat box, and we'll try as the best we can to pick them up. So the first questions is from Mr. or Mrs. Hian Nguyen from Vietnam. And I think this question can go for first Mr. Sopip Shim and then Ajahn Rasami will so two of you, if we would like to invite two of you to answer this one question. So he or she asks that nowadays, tourism has made a great impact on our nature and heritage, while giving big amount of benefits to not only local communities, but also businesses inside and outside the communities who are involved in touristic activities. How can we address the need for everyone to show mutual responsibilities in caring for the environment of the destination? So probably Mr. Shim first, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a really good question. How to make sure that everybody, like including the tourists and the beneficiary, responsible on the tourism activity in the community, for example.
Yes.
So based on experience I have with different community I work with, especially with Osmos on the Tonle Sap Lake, education and awareness that we are doing. So part of the visit to the community, not only to visit the site, to visit the community, but we need to also encourage the tourists to see some education activity organized by the villager, including some waste collection activity. Sometimes we involve tourists with, and we have the education for children in the village, which sometimes we organize the outdoor classes on board, bringing the children to learn about floating garden, how to grow vegetable on the water, and to learn about the forest, flooded forest, and it's important, and to learn about the bird colony in the Tonle Sap Lake. And we combine together with the tour group that they come to visit their community. I do hope this answer can
Yes,
match to the
you
question
provide
that
an
they asked.
excellent
Yeah.
example. So,
Yeah.
Ajahn Rasami, if you might also reflect on this as well, like also in the context of heritage conservation, how do we help promoting that everybody need to be responsible for caring for the surrounding, either in natural or heritage surroundings of the destinations? Can you unmute, please?
Okay. I think the first thing is we have to have information of the significance or the how important of the national or cultural heritage, on the area that the visitor visit, so they will see that how important or how lucky or they appreciate, what they kind of like, visit or to see that or have those kind of experience. Information is very important, that you have to provide the information, scientific or local information, native kind of like storytelling or whatever. That is one thing. The second thing is the group, the community group that who are the guide or who engage into the tourism have to have a regulation, say something like, please don't go, outside the trail, don't pick up the plant from the forest, things like that. So you respect the regulation of the local community group in the area that you visit. That is something that I think it will help. Another thing that the social media have a strong impact on the worldwide kind of like information. This is something that we can put information through the people who want to visit the area that, about this concern. And that is and also encourage them to really share their experience, the authenticity and, how much that they appreciate the place or the area or people that they be,
Yes.
I think that's, kind of like what I can think
you.
of.
Thank you for the very clear bullet points as well. Second question now is from Mr. Ranya Dang Noi from Thailand. And I think this one is for Kun Nat Danai, Kun Jam. So she asked, can you please share with us your technique in creating an environment of lifelong learning on culture between host communities and the visitors? And I think this also relates to your bicultural curriculum and other activities as well. Kun Jam, can you share your technique to us?
Yes, thank you for your question. I want to share about the experience and we show in the presentation, like in Mayotte communities. In the first site, we do the rotational farming workshop with the people outside. And after that, we reflect with the people in community, like the people, the participant, they come from outside. They, wow, what is this? What is a food? What like this? They very excited and they share in on social media, to on channel like that, and it made the impact, like the people in the like designer, they share in on Facebook and have a friends come, and now we have a collaboration project to design the product in the community by the storytelling like that. And but the important thing is the people in the community, they aware a lot about like example, we have one thing is named Haw, is a mint Pakakayo, and is in rotational farming only, and the taste is very special, and the people in the community, they see very common because they eat every day like that, but the chef come and do the menu together with the people in community, and now the whole add have like to add values, and the people in community, they pick this Howard to do the products like Howard tea, Howard fermentation with the honey, like 5 years, and wow, it made an impact in the community, have awareness about own knowledge, own products like that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think to relate to that as well, and I saw that Kun Igor has already answered that in writing, and I would like to invite Kun Igor to also verbally share that. One question from an anonymous attendee say, how can commodification of intangible heritage be avoided? I know that we're talking about, for example, the case of Hawa that Kun Jam just raised, and but in the case that is not actually coming in from the community, but from outsiders, how can commodification of intangible heritage or traditional knowledge be avoided, especially in a case of rituals or sacred practices or performances, if the community willingly participates as it gives them greater income? So if Kun Igor would like to also verbally share what you answered to this particular attendee, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, first of all, the communities should be well informed on what are the business advantages and what is the deal with the groups of tourists visiting them, because that way they would be empowered to take their own decisions. But each community that is indigenous community should have its own local governance structure, its mechanism, because it's one of the key aspects of the autonomy of the indigenous people to make their own choices. So many communities, for example, traditionally in Africa or Latin America, they choose a place where they can showcase their rituals, where they communicate what they do, but they do not take people to the places that really are dear to them and that are so important in their spiritual life. So the community can decide that these things can be staged elsewhere, so there is no conflict within the intimate sphere and the public sphere. But we should also remember that sometimes we are a bit, how would I put it, patronizing with many indigenous communities, telling them how they need to live and how they need to promote their intangible cultural heritage. I would say there is no unique model, as we have seen today. For example, for some conservative cultural heritage managers, what our friend from the current community, Nutanai, is doing would be something that is too bombastic and maybe eccentric. And I just loved it because the whole community is involved and everybody's playing a part and people sit together and say what we want to do. Because I don't think nowadays that we can live without communication through social media. And I don't think that we can have indigenous communities in an isolation if they do not choose to live that way. Because, for example, in some areas, if you don't want to have tourism, of course, there should be laws that would punish the investors or tour operators that want to intervene in the communities. But if the community itself decides through its governance mechanism and local community leaders that this is the way they want to manage tourism, who are we to say, oh, this is contrary to the heritage preservation? I don't think that people from international institutions or governments could impose their criteria from their offices and their chairs on what needs to be done at the community level. So it's a kind of tricky area with a very subtle balance.
Yes, exactly. There's no such one size fits all as well. Thank you very much. This is very reflective. And one more question, actually, many more questions, sorry. This one is from Myanmar, from Usan Win Ang. And I think I would like to invite Mr. Sopip Shim to answer to this one. So he would like to know how, in terms of from your experience, how to engage travel agencies to synergize on the development of tourist destinations, especially in rural and remote areas, how to engage the travel agencies in being the development force for the sake of the safeguarding of communities' culture.
Thank you for the question. Based on the experience that I have been working with the community-based ecosystem for many years, so in fact, first, when we design the community-based ecosystem activity, we have to engage the tour operators, right? Because as an NGO helping the community to set up the tourism, we can do it, but in order to bring the tourists to the community so the people can get benefit from tourism, it's not so easy. As NGO, you cannot do alone in order to get the tourists to visit the site. So you need to promote about the site and organize kind of meeting or event. Invite most of the tour company come to join to explain about the community-based ecosystem service that we offer. And then as soon as they agree and contract with the community, we have all the like the rule or regulation for tour company and also for visitor who come to visit the site, what they need to do, what they cannot do, for example. So make sure that all the tourists come through the NGO or directly to the community, they respect the rule in the community. That's what I used to do when I work for the community. I think if any other speaker
Yes,
have
I mean, like,
something to add, please. Yeah.
You're resonating also what Dr. Rasami said. It's all about sharing information. It's all about communicating as well. So the more you're exposed everybody to a full information, the better they can actually act in synergy to each other. Thank you very much for emphasizing this. I will just move on to the next question, which I would like Miss Lali, to also answer. This one is also like a little bit on like your how you achieve what you've been doing and you're showing to us so far. So this is a question from Malaysia, from Miss Anissa Abdul Aziz. Can you share with us some methods or process that you used in managing creative activities and solutions with indigenous communities that you're working with?
How's that again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Yes, just to like, according to your experience and what you've been doing, can you share with us some of the methods or process or techniques or examples that you use in managing all creative activities and solutions and initiatives that you have with the National Museum with indigenous communities?
Yeah, it has not been easy, but actually it's been challenging, but very rewarding, because when you start doing it, then people are sometimes skeptical and they would say, what, we will be dancing, we will be chanting. But when they start to get actually do it, and they get to discover how maybe they'll discover that their family was actually one of the more known families in the past, then they it gets their interest, and then somehow they get family members, and then before we know it, the association or the organization is organized and getting strong. And then there's also it's actually also common interests and shall we say vested interest also for service providers, when you get to see that maybe we can work together and get more profit together if we somehow will put our resources together. And that's how it worked for the local tour operator, because there's not many tour operators in the area, and these are all from outside. And we somehow realized that we can do the work also. We can also have that expertise, and somehow we found ourselves forming that group. So it's really, shall we say, sometimes it's needs based, sometimes it's your interest, because somehow you get more interested when you learn how to dance, learn how to sing, and learn the chants. And then somehow when you get the young learners to do it, and it's very cute watching them play, and then their parents get interested, and then you get the parents into the organization.
Exactly.
And that's how the organization gets bigger and stronger.
Thank you very much. That's very insightful. Another question from Malaysia, from Kalia Sagaria. And I would like to ask Dr. Rasami to help reflecting on this. How do the case studies maintain, like your case study, maintain the landscape character when they're like designed or developed for tourism? And I think this one is actually directing to your context of the archaeological site that you're presenting as well. Like, how do you balance actually between maintaining the character of the landscape while they're like tourism activities being designed, being developed? How difficult or easy that is to you? And can you unmute as well อาจารย์ค่ะ
Thank you for your question. It's very difficult, like good question and difficult to answer. The way that I approach the what I doing is from academic perspective and also from the community-based practice, and I have to do a lot with the tourist authority who once I promote my research or the community in the area, people want to jump into the make the kind of like tourist destination. But what I did is also, I also talked to the community and asked them that, do you want to promote this as a tourist destination? Or, so a lot of village that I work with or the ethnic groups, some village, they will say that, yes, we want to do that. And, another village will say that, no, we want to have a good training within our village first in terms of, all the homestay, all the activities, all the knowledge, because they think that the only thing people have their own knowledge. I think the case of the Ifugao and the Pagayor, this is insider who really view themselves and also manage the tourism. For me, I am as an outsider, so I have to be more, sensitive to what I am doing.
Yes.
Everything that I do, I have to take a responsibility for this. So what I propose it. I work with the governor, I work with the tourist authority, I work with the community. But my role is like I present the fact to the community that this is what you have. This is what you have in terms of national resources. Everything is in there, but I am the one that put together like folklore. This is the folklore that you have. It's more systematic way to present it to outsider. And sometimes the outsider just grab it really quick before the community can really kind of like prepare themselves. But I also tell them like what Igor just say that this is the entrepreneur that this is they want to do this. Are you ready for this? Are you prepared? If you want to make a homestay, are you ready for people will come to stay in your home? Are you ready to open up for them, for the people who stay there? And we prepare the community that we work with and also talk openly to the tourist kind of like company or the tourist authority or even the governor that before you want to do any kind of like tourist route, you need to do research. You have to have information about people, culture, and also what to do or you shouldn't do, the tangible or intangible heritage that,
Yes.
sometimes it's ritual kind of like, because my background is also anthropology. We have to be sensitive to what we're going to show to the tourists. That is my role. So I think that, I did for the design of the one that I work with. It's come from the 20 years of integration of the history and archaeology of the region. And it's involved the discussion with the people and ask that what is your identity in terms of, your culture and also history and archaeology. And we select the designer who select the color, even the color for the, we use it. We have to ask people that is this your color or because, red,
It's all about
gold or
community
whatever. Yeah, earth
consultation.
tone
Yeah.
is also, we have to ask the community and then we decide it based on the involvement, the discussion with the different party, the designer, artist, local community, and tourists, kind of like, group
Yes.
before we make a design. Even the music, we make the music because the thing is we compose the music that based on the indigenous, the local ethnic, music. Partially because a lot of people work on the other thing like textile, subsistence economy, forest or something like that, tangible and intangible cultural heritage, basketry, but music and language, something that somehow, very few research on that.
Yeah.
With the exception of the Karen, because Professor Suvishan, he worked on that. But a lot of ethnic group doesn't have that. So we want to make sure that based on the arrangement of the music, we put together as something that contemporary society, people in the city can connect it to this. And then we introduce the route and the story by the local into the route that we kind of design. But that is, I have to make, I have to admit that it's us as an outsider, even though, we listen to people and try to do our best. But it's better to have like, someone like Natanai or Kun Ulali, who are, local, the real ethnic that who work on that. But we know our role, but we think that at least to a certain extent, we can be the part of like, knowledge production in terms of from the scientific kind of like or systematic kind of like a way to just collect the information. And we put it in the database that people sharing it with people, because I think that nowadays, the quality tourism, responsible tourism, ecotourism, they all want information, and it's very hard to find the information.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you very much. That's very reflective as well. And so I think you already answered like the next question that I was actually intend to ask, not only you, but Miss Ulali as well. So and I think I would invite Miss Ulali, Mr. Jam, and other speakers to reflect on this question in writing in the chat box. It was a question from Scotland, from Miss Philippa Lovat, who is a professor in film, who was asking about the role, what do you think about the role of arts from what the examples that you just put, actually, how the role of arts can play in communicating ecological issues to different audiences. And I think this is very reflected already in what you just, Ajahn Rasami just answered, and what Ms. Ulari and Mr. Jam just presented in their presentations as well. So I think this is very well answered. And thank you for this very reflexive question as well. Another very good question, last two questions actually. This one is from the Philippines, from Donne John Sodasta, an assistant professor. Maybe Kunat Danai, Kun Jam, you might want to share from your direct experience working with the PASD. So a brief answer, please. Can you share with us some examples of education program with indigenous peoples that you think works best in your experience, in your opinion, when implementing by local community agency like yours?
Okay. About education, we work a lot because we start to do the like capacity building, the knowledge holder in the communities to link them together, and we do the data a lot about our traditional knowledge. It's a very big book, and we design together with the people in communities, and we collaborate with the local school to do like a curriculum, like we call bicultural curriculum, or we use like a nature curriculum, because in the Pakakayo communities we have activities like a seasonal, because we do rotational farming. Like in this month, we need to grow the rice together with about the seed, like that. We need to manage our local seed in the with women in the communities, like that. And in every process, every activities of communities, we invite the student in the school come to learn together in the communities, and sometimes we we talk about the music. No, we have a lot of music instrument like tena is a local guitars of Pacagayo, and we invite the like a musician in the community come and to learn how to play this tena, and like we do like this, and the student they reflect like okay, we know in mainstream curriculum, and now we know ourselves in the school, because if we don't do like this, we don't have time to learn ourselves, to learn our traditional knowledge,
So
to
you would
learn
say like
our
something
identity.
on the arts education, music education is the kind of modality for education programs that seems to work very well, especially in the context of indigenous people and ethnic people. Thank you. So last question, this one is for all 5 of you, is from Kun Suwandikon Patan from Lao PDR, and I think it's perfectly to put it in like, I would only make it more difficult for all of you by just, you would only say one word or one phrase for each of you to this question. So Mr. Suwandikon asked each of you to please give one word that is a key takeaway on how different people, different sector, public sector, private sector, or civil society from the organization that you're from, basically, can support ethnic groups or minority groups or indigenous people to take a positive part in tourism activity in sustainable or long-term future. Please put your answer in one word or one phrase. So I will start with Dr. Rasami, who seems to be the quickest wit.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Ajahn
I would
Rasami, you will
say
get
like I think it's networking.
networking.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Miss Ulali, ladies first for all these.
My keyword would be education.
And Mr. Shim, Mr. Soprip Shim.
My keyword would be authenticity.
Okay. And Mr. Jam Natanai.
I think my word is co-creation.
Okay, then that leaves Mr. Igor with the most difficult task since everybody took all the words. Mr. Igor?
I would say intercultural dialogue and indigenous leadership.
That's super long word. Okay, thank you very much. And I think that really perfectly answered like the key takeaway, the key words that we all have to stick to when we're talking about working in the indigenous and ethnic environment of the tourism as well. And thank you again, all the 5 presenters today for all this very wonderful, very inspiring presentation as well. And as a wrap to our webinar today, so I would want to put the presentation up, please. We again would like to thank our esteemed and insightful speakers as well as our active audience who stayed for the entire thing of this this DASTA webinar. Just before we conclude, UNESCO would like to advertise the next final seminar, which will take place on the 17th of July at Amari Don Mueang Airport Hotel in Bangkok, Thailand. Both online and on-site participation are available, and we will soon be advertising via social media and websites of UNESCO and City Connects. So last but not least, in the next slide, please, for all audiences who have persisted with us for the whole 2 hours and a half, who have joined this very long and insightful webinar, you can scan here for your certificate of participation, and please complete the feedback survey form and get your certificate by this Friday. We will keep this screen up for you until the end of our Zoom. Again, UNESCO would like to thank ASEAN-Turkey Cooperation, DASTA, CRIHAB, K11, Onyx Hospitality Group, City Connects, B Consulting Cambodia, and Thailand CBTI for making this project possible. Lastly, dear audience and speaker, it's been such a great pleasure with all of you, and we hope to see you again in the next seminar on the 17th of July. As for now, goodbye and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for
much.
your,
This is
Thank you.
You're an
very
amazing
personal
moderator.
for me.
Yeah,
Yes.
amazing
Thank you.
moderation, Montacar.
Yeah, thank you. You
Thank
are
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
You
Bye-bye.
make it, you make it, the whole thing is, you make it really flow.
Really?
And
Oh,
thank
I can
you.
try
Yes.
to be fun.
And thank you,
Yeah.
all of you. Nice to meet you. I hope that we can meet you in person in the future.
Yes, you should
Thank
invite
you.
all of them to one of your very high-level
Right,
conferences,
yes.
กับอาจารย์รัศมี
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Thank you.
สวัสดีค
Keep
รั
in
บ
touch. Thank you very
ได้ค่ะ
much.
ครับ
ขอบคุณมากค่ะ
ขอบคุณนะคะ ขอบคุณค่ะ
เก่งมากเลยค่ะ ขอบคุณคุณไก่ด้วยนะคะ